Good morning, dear students. Students, I think and really believe that based on our discussion about the plant tissues and animal tissues and our introductory discussion on the first day, you have a good perception about the plant tissues and animal tissues and the types of tissues and the importance in the life of the plants or animals or the multicellular organisms. So in this way, students, today we're going to specifically and in detail going to define the plant tissue and its various types which are involved in the various functions which a plant has to perform. So students, let's categorize the plant tissue into meristematic tissues and the permanent tissues. So the meristematic tissues are the one which are the dividing tissues and they are responsible for the growth of the plant. It might be the apex of the plant, it might be the girth of the plant, that means the thickness of the plant, or it might be the nodes or internodes of the plant or the leaf parts. Similarly, when the tissues like meristematic tissues stop dividing and the cells of the meristematic tissue become specialized to perform a specific function, they are categorized as a permanent tissue. And the permanent tissue based on the number of cells can be categorized into simple tissue and the complex tissue. The simple tissues are the one in which there are cells, only one type of cells are present in the simple tissues, so that they are named as a simple permanent tissue, and they can be parenchyma, collenchyma and sclerenchyma. Whereas if a tissue contains more number of cells and a different types of cells, such tissue is named as a complex permanent tissue because of the presence of more number of cells. Such tissue is named as the complex permanent tissue, and it might be the xylem or phloem. So the xylem has certain different types of cells like trachees, vessels, xylem parenchyma and xylem fibers. Out of all the four, only the xylem parenchyma is living, rest are dead. Whereas the phloem tissues contain the sieve tube cells, companion cells, phloem parenchyma and phloem fibers, and out of all the four, only the phloem fibers are dead, rest are living. So both of these tissues like xylem and phloem are involved in the conduction of water and minerals as well as the food to different parts of the plant. Now specifically today we are going to classify and study about the meristematic tissue and its various types depending upon the growth of the plant, in specific regions like the apex, that means the shoot apex or the root apex, or it might be the tip of the leaf. In this way, the intercalary meristem is the growth of the internodes nodes of the plant, and the lateral meristem is considered as the girth of the plant. That means the thickness of the plant along the cross section of the plant. So in this way, students, the meristematic tissues are the one which are the dividing tissues. You can easily assume and see that the apical meristematic tissue is the one which is involved in the growth of the apex of the plant. That means in this way, in this direction, the apex is grown. That means the tip of the plant, it might be the shoot or the tip of the root. Similarly, the intercalary meristem is involved in the growth of the internodes and nodes. Now let us understand what actually the node is. The portion or the point at which the cross section at which the leaf grows, such point is known as a node, and between two nodes like this point and this point, the distance between the two nodes is known as the internode. So the internode grows or the node grows is responsible for the tissue that is known as the intercalary meristematic tissue. I'm going to explain in detail about all these tissues specifically. Don't worry about that. I'm just giving you an overview about all these different kinds of tissues. And the lateral meristematic tissue is responsible for the girth of the plant, that is the growth of the diameter of the plant or the thickness of the plant. So you can see in this way the arrows pointing this direction. So if we cut this cross section, this growth in this way, the in this diameter way, if the thickness of the plant grows, such growth is known as the lateral meristematic tissue is responsible for the growth of the girth of the plant. So now students, specifically we are going to study about in detail that what is a meristematic tissue or the meristem or the growth tissue. We call it also as a growth tissue because it is responsible for the growth of the plant. Now students, let's read it. It is responsible for growth of the plant. Meristematic tissue has the ability to divide and redivide to provide growth to plants. Okay, it can divide and redivide to provide growth to the plants. Now the growth of the plants occurs from specific regions like root, shoot, nodes, girth of the stem and the leaf base. Now let's understand what is the root. The lower portion of the plant which grows below the ground is known as the root. The portion of the plant which grows above the soil is known as the shoot, and the nodes are the portion of the point from which the leaf grows. It is marked in this way, in this circular region. You can easily see this is the node, okay, and the distance between the smaller space between the two nodes, this node and this node, is known as the internode. Now students, the girth of the stem is the diameter region, और आप कह सकते हैं circular region जो plant का है, हम क्रॉस सेक्शन काटेंगे, जो thickness उसकी बढ़ती है, उस चीज़ को हम क्या कहते हैं, girth of the stem कहते हैं. And similarly the leaf base, you know about the base of the leaf. Now the cells which are present in the meristematic tissues are mostly living. They are immature, they are small, they are thin walled, they are undifferentiated and compactly arranged without intercellular spaces. Now students, the cells which the meristematic tissues are living, you know that they are living, that means they have a living protoplasm and they can divide further. They are immature, that means they are not mature to perform any kind of a function, they are only involved in the growth of the plant, that is why they are named as the immature plants. They are small, if they will be big, it will be difficult for the meristematic tissue to divide the cells further. They are thin walled, if they will not be thin walled, they can't divide very easily, they are thin walled, and they are undifferentiated. I have marked in a star in this way the process by which the cells become specialized to do a specific function. They are undifferentiated, that means they are not specialized to perform any specific function. That is why this term is named as an undifferentiated term. This term is going to come very gradually in your process to study the whole chapter tissue. So please understand this term, that is undifferentiated or differentiated. Differentiation, that means if a cell becomes specialized to do a specific function, such permanent tissue is known as the differentiated tissue or the cell. And if the cell is not specialized to perform any function, it is not grown enough or mature enough, such cell is known as the undifferentiated cell. And they are compactly arranged without intercellular spaces, as you can see in the figure. These are the cells of the plant, these are cells of the meristematic tissue, and they are compactly arranged, they don't have any intercellular spaces. Now, the cells of the meristematic tissue are similar in structure, as you can see in the figure, which might have a shape like round, oval, polygonal, or rectangular, and they have a thin cellulose cell wall. So this is a cell wall, it is made up of cellulose, and this shape of the cell is considered as the polygonal in this case. And each meristematic cell contains dense cytoplasm and a large nucleus. Why they have a dense cytoplasm? Because the cell has to divide many times, so they should have a dense cytoplasm so that the other cell which has been divided should have the cytoplasm properly and it should be able to function properly. And they have a large nucleus because they have to divide further and further, and they have to look after the process of division. That is why they have a large nucleus. But the vacuoles are almost absent. This is a question which might be asked in your exam, that the vacuoles are absent because the vacuoles provide a rigidity and solidity because they contain the cell sap, and if there will be rigidity and turgidity in the cell, it will be very difficult for the cell to divide. That is why they do not have the vacuoles in them. Now students, as I categorize the meristematic tissue in the apical, lateral, and intercalary, they are categorized on the basis of the region where they are present. So the apical meristematic tissue, these tissues are present in the growing tip of stems, roots, or leaves. Tips जो होती हैं, from the term we can understand that apical, that means apex, that means the tip of the roots or stems or leaves. और वहाँ की उनकी elongation में ये apical meristematic tissue काम करता है, and it results in the increase the height of the plant. And that means the height is increasing, and such increase in growth or the growth is known as the primary growth. In the similar way, the lateral meristematic tissue, it is found beneath the bark. Okay, you can see in this figure, this is the outer bark of the plant. If we cut the plant from the cross section, so this is the outer bark. Okay, so it is found beneath the bark. The lateral meristematic tissue है वो bark के अंदर पाया जाता है. उसके बाद हम देखेंगे कि ये क्या कहलाता है जो beneath the bark है, cork cambium. And in vascular bundles of roots and stems, ये क्या कहलाता है आपका vascular cambium. Okay, so the cambium is the region responsible for the growth in the thickness or the girth of the stem or the root. Now, let us understand, students, with this help of this figure. See, there are certain layers in the cross section of the plant which are known as the vascular cambium, cork cambium, और जो कैम्बियम है इसके द्वारा ही आप देखेंगे जब ये आगे बढ़ेगा, ये थिकनेस बढ़ेगी, इसी को हम ग्रोथ कहते हैं, गर्थ की ग्रोथ कहते हैं. और ये किसके द्वारा रिस्पॉन्सिबल है? ये रिस्पॉन्सिबल है लेटरल मेरिस्टेमेटिक का काम है, जिससे थिकनेस और गर्थ को इंक्रीज करने का. Now in this way, students, intercalary मेरिस्टेम, the tissue present the base of the leaves or nodes in the internodes of the plant which help in their elongation. आप देख सकते हैं इस फिगर में ये नोड्स हैं, इसकी ग्रोथ में जो काम आता है वो क्या कहलाता है आपका इंटरकैलरी मेरिस्टेम. आपका जो गर्थ के थिकनेस को इंक्रीज करने में काम आता है वो क्या कहता है लेटरल मेरिस्टेम, और जो एपिक्स या शूट हो चाहे रूट हो उसके ग्रोथ में काम आता है वो क्या कहलाता है एपिकल मेरिस्टेम. बेस्ड ऑन विच देयर आर वेरियस फंक्शंस ऑफ द ऑल द टाइप्स ऑफ मेरिस्टेमेटिक टिश्यूज. दे एक्ट एज पेरेंट टिश्यू क्योंकि वो टिश्यूज को डिवाइड करते हैं और फर्दर नए सेल्स बनते हैं जो मैच्योर हो जाते हैं और डिफरेंट फंक्शन परफॉर्म करते हैं. ये किसके कारण होता है? मेरिस्टेमेटिक टिश्यू के कारण होता है. सिमिलरली द प्लांट्स कंटिन्यू प्रोड्यूस न्यू लीव्स. जो प्लांट है नए लीव्स बनाते हैं, ब्रांच बनाते हैं स्टेम और रूट्स की, फ्लावर्स बनाते हैं, फ्रूट्स बनाते हैं, रूट हेड्स बनाते हैं. किसकी वजह से? मेरिस्टेमेटिक टिश्यू की मदद से, क्योंकि ग्रोथ के लिए रिस्पॉन्सिबल है वो. अगर कोई पार्ट इंजर्ड हो गया प्लांट का तो वो दोबारा प्रोड्यूस किया सकता है क्योंकि मेरिस्टेमेटिक टिश्यू फर्दर डिवाइड करता रहता है सेल्स को और न्यू रीजन्स बन सकते हैं. और अगर कोई स्टेम झुक गई है या स्टेम बेंड हो गई है विंड के कारण तो उसको अपराइट करने में भी इंटरकैलरी मेरिस्टेम जो नोड्स को ग्रो करता है वो उसमें मदद करता है आपका मेरिस्टेमेटिक tissue. So this was a brief description about the meristematic tissue. So students, please listen and attentively and watch twice and thrice as many times you understand the concept. So I have tried a humble attempt to explain this video about meristematic tissue, and we will be explaining this on the Google Meet also. So please try to come in the Google Meet and understand this topic very clearly, students. Thank you, students. Thank you very much.